You're listening to Happy Hour with Joby and Curtis.
Showtime.
Superstar. Welcome back to Happy Hour with Joby and Curtis. We're a special live broadcast from Poseidon Brewing Company.
Right.
I've got the address right here in front of me, Joby.
Yes.
Right from the
I'm not
coaster.
going to say it because I messed up already once.
5777 Olivas Park Drive.
Is it 5 or 3? Because I got in trouble earlier.
It's 3 sevens. But it's
right.
577, so don't put a 3 in there anywhere else. Ventura, California. You can also find them at www.poseidonbrewingco.com.
So we should say easy to get to from the 101 freeway, Victoria.
Victoria, take a left.
First light after,
and take a
second
left.
light. And come down and leave us.
Yeah.
We could play golf across the street, get a growler. Maybe hopefully they'll get some better beer.
Or do some gambling a block away.
Oh, that's right. The casino's up there.
Over here.
And buy a car. Well, here everything is convenient. No churches or schools. But
and if you're here early enough, you get a coffee. Right. And then if you got to waste time, get another coffee and then come back on over.
Or you can get a workout.
That's it.
They're like right next door.
That's right.
A
Facebook
page. I keep forgetting. If I've looked at the Facebook page, you've got one. I can't. I was looking for one. I was looking for one today, and I can't remember if I found it or not. I was trying to tag you.
You liked it.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Perfect.
He's getting in on the ground floor.
You even
Curtis is getting in early.
So here's what's happening, because today I was working with the fair and the show that Jason and I were doing last night. It was all day long just trying to put these shows together, and so I was doing about 4 different things in the middle of each one of those as I'm waiting for the computer to compile all this video. And so my day has been just a complete blur from start to finish. And it's summer, and my kids are home, and they all want me to do things too. So I was like, I can't remember what I've done.
Daddy's busy.
I was so glad to get in the car and then zoom up here.
Kids, I hope you're not listening.
I get to be quiet for a little while. So anyway, definitely look for their Facebook page. Give them a like. You'll see some of the updated pictures, construction work. You'll be in the know when it comes time for us to talk about when the opening is. But right as we left the break, we were getting ready to talk to Reno about his background. And so I think we'll just get into it. You know, a lot of the brewers we talk to come from some sort of homebrewing background. Reno, is that the same for you?
Same deal. Yeah, I started when I was 18 years old. All my buddies were trying to get fake IDs.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
It's not illegal to brew beer when you're under 21.
I hope the cops aren't listening right now. But
it's not retroactive. You're okay.
I went to catalog, the homebrewing catalog, and I ordered all the ingredients. And I was like, are they going to actually send this to me without checking my ID? And they did. So arrived at the doorstep. My first batch of beer, I wouldn't say it was phenomenal, but it wasn't no problems with it. It tasted okay and had alcohol in it.
That was those are
mission accomplished.
The most important things, and flavor isn't even one of the most important. It had alcohol.
Check down on the list.
Oh, yeah. So from there, it was instantaneous bug.
What kind of beer was it?
It was an amber as well, which is funny because we're drinking one right now.
That's exactly what we're drinking right now.
The next one was an IPA and then a stout, but it was funny because. Yeah, and it's just one of those ones. It's one of those when you're a home brewer, you think, oh, easy, low on the hops, high in the malt, high in the alcohol. And in this case, I made it was like an imperial amber almost at that point. But because when you're young, you're
thinking, there's a 10% amber.
Yeah, like, seriously. Yeah, you're thinking ABV. You're not.
Your buddies must have liked coming to your house.
Oh yeah, I used to go to parties all the time, bring a couple cases of beer. They'd be like, let's invite Reno because he's probably got a whole. But I did. I had like a whole closet full of bottled beer.
So where was this? Did you grow up locally or?
I grew up in Goleta, California. So yeah, I was out in Goleta at the time, and I just kind of started going to City College. Actually, I went to City College there, and then UC Davis for a degree in biology, which is a fantastic place to learn about beer too.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I didn't actually participate in any of the beer programs there, which I highly regret now. But I was surrounded by people totally involved with the wine and beer programs, so that was great. And then worked in the corporate world for a while for a medical company. I hated it. Stuck in a cubicle, and then started working for Fig Mountain. For a while, they taught me how to do brewing at an industrial level, which was awesome. Worked with AJ Stoll, their brewmaster. And I started with them about 6 months to 8 months after they opened their doors. So I got to watch them grow and become the awesome brewer they are now. So
they've certainly grown, and they've been growing.
Yeah, big time. So
were you home brewing this whole time, like as you're going through
yeah.
when you're working at the medical place?
Yeah, so it's been about 12 years now. Been brewing for about 12 years, and then professionally for a little over, I'd say, almost 4 years now. But it's such a great industry to be in. I absolutely adore it. So that's why I'm here now.
And you were headhunted
I wouldn't say headhunted. It was more like what's funny is
Make it sound
once again
Well, no, I just.
Brian came in. I met Brian,
That one,
and he
Well, we
was-
came in with some money and we flashed it around. So yeah, I'm ready to go.
Not at all. Actually, Brian came in. He was actually looking to see if there was another brewer friend of mine that was out of work that would work for him. And at the time, I was working for Fig in Santa Barbara and in Buellton, which is a great experience because I get to work on a 7-barrel brewery and a 15. But Brian came in. He had all these great questions, like I said before, and kind of sparked my interest. So originally, I was going to consult for him while I still work for Fig, and it turned out I just ended up coming to work for him full time. And it was kind of one of those things where it just felt right. So worked out.
Beer wise, you mean at Fig, what size of batches were you brewing at that point?
Good question. It depends. So like the brew house is a 15, let's say in Buellton, so I was primarily doing production up there. But the vats are what really determine your batch size. So they had 30s and 60s, and now I think they just installed some new 120s.
Yeah, I
they just
saw
dropped
a
some new
picture
120s through the ceiling, which is pretty exciting. So it's pretty big batches. It was 2 shifts a day, every day, 7 days a week. So we started to grow our team from when I started. There were 3 of us, and then when I left, I think there were around 10 or 12 people, including the cellar guys, of course. And got to work with some great brewers too. So.
Did you have a beer there that you worked with the most, or was that kind of spread out all over?
It was spread out. So it's based on just the shifting of the beers from fermenters into brights and into the bottle and the keg, right? So you come in almost blind for what you're going to be brewing that day. So I got to brew everything, absolutely everything. I was lucky enough to be there when they brewed their first batch of Lizard's Mouth. I got to do that along with the brewmaster. That was fun. Double IPA, everything when things were created along the way. So it was really fortunate to be there during that time, and learned a great deal, and also had a lot of fun. I mean, it's a really fun industry to be in. So constantly smiling all the time.
Yeah, Jason really wants to know. Well, you brewed on a 7-barrel at the Santa Barbara tap room, right?
Yeah, 7-barrel there, which is what we're brewing on here at Poseidon.
Right. So Jason wants to know what's it like to go back to a 7-barrel.
Well, I mean, I was brewing. I remember that's when I met Brian. I was actually brewing on that 7. And I absolutely love 7-barrel systems. I think 7-10 is my favorite size. If I had to brew on anything, I've never actually brewed on one, but whenever I go visit, I'm like, this is the size I want to brew on. And 15's great too, as long as you have a little bit of automation. Once you get that big, it's very manual. So like in the morning, when you go in and brew on a 15, if you're mashing by hand, it's 45 minutes with a paddle. It's a big workout, and then graining out is maybe half an hour, 45 minutes as well. So
you want something automated where it has like an automatic.
You'd want
whirlpool,
rakes and plows at that point.
Yeah.
But it's not to say that it wasn't a great experience, because I mean, you get a pretty strong back doing that every day. You don't have to go to the gym. Canceled my gym membership, so
There you go.
that was cool. But I love 7s and 10s. I think they're the perfect size for a craft brewery.
Go ahead.
Well, then, so the system you have back here is not automated. Is that what I'm getting from you? That it's
Not
just,
at all. Not
okay.
at all. It's one of those systems where if you could brew on this, if you can learn on a system like this, which is pretty much plug and play. So we've got a pump, and we've got everything separated. A hot liquor tank with a single valve on it. We've got a mash tun. Doesn't even have wedge wire screens. It's a very old school system. And then a wonderful kettle. Once again, also just has a whirlpool arm inside, and then a bottom drain. I mean, you're looking at a very simple but very well designed system that if you can brew on it, you can brew on anything, because you don't have any automation, no solenoid switches, no water inlet switches, nothing. Everything's just plug in a hose here and pump it over. So
And manual mash.
manual
mashing.
Yeah. We do have a hydrator, which if you don't have a hydrator out there, other pro brewers, get one. It's
So,
amazing.
and as it's coming out of the grind or out of the mill, it's being shot with water. Is
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
that
cool.
was something that Ollie was really proud of. That I remember he was showing it to us, and
Very, very adamant on having that piece of equipment.
Great piece of equipment. I can't thank Brian enough for getting it. It's basically, it's like a spiral of jets inside of a tube, and you're able to pump your sparge or mash water in this case. And as the grain falls through the air, it literally hits it with the water and hydrates it. So it allows you to run the mill and mash in by yourself at the same time.
so you're kind of starting the process. Is that what you're doing as it's coming down?
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll start milling in. In the beginning, Brian was giving me a hand because, we're trying to get everything dialed in. But now I can fully just do it by myself. You just dump a bag and then run back, mash, and everything's kind of wet already for you. And then run back, dump another bag, and just kind of listen for it to run out. So it becomes more of like a solo project in the morning. You don't have to have an assistant or anything help you out. So
Brian, let's get to you for a second, because we've been talking about your thought and your forethought in this system as you were building it. How did you come to this? I mean, Jason threw out the word philosophy. Was there a philosophy behind it? Is it a pragmatic sort of start for you? What were the thought processes as you were going through?
I think a lot of beer drinking, a lot, and I say that to say this is beer drinking, doing market research, because everywhere we went to, I'm sipping the beer, I'm tasting the beer, but I'm also looking at the system and the setup and reading the magazines and books, and I really put a lot of thought into it for execution. You know, like kind of visit all the different brewers that we could, bug people, like went to like Fig Mountain, bug people like Reno, you know. but in the background, I'm like taking pictures and scoping out the system and all that stuff. It's all in the back of the head, and then just kind of
recon.
Yeah, recon.
I love it.
Sketched it all out and kind of planned it out that way.
Yeah, I've
Best
heard
practices.
I've heard people say, economies of scale and labor. So like
Absolutely.
a lot of guys around here have 3.5 barrel, nano. I guess it's a nano brewery.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go up to 7 and then 10. And a lot of people say that the amount of effort, I think you touched on it too, to go to brew 3.5 or a 7 or a 10 is about the same. It may be a little more grain or a little more this, but it's almost like the same amount of work that you're doing. And so you might as well bite the bullet. You don't have to say how much you spent, but obviously a 7 barrel is more expensive than a 3.5 barrel. And I'm sure a 10 barrel is even crazier price.
Yeah, the price difference isn't that far off. Like, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Like, if you buy about a 15 barrel fermenter, somewhere between $10,000 and $12,000 for a really nice one. But if you go up to a 30, it's only about $15,000. So you're paying $3,000 more bucks for
to get double
the size, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, and it doesn't have a bigger footprint. The footprint's maybe a couple square feet bigger than the 15, but you get twice the volume because you're thinking you're paying square footage, you're not paying for cubic footage.
You're right.
So
you
you
go all the way up.
Up
It's like,
is good.
yeah.
Tall ceilings are good.
Tall ceilings are good. That's cool.
But you did hit something that was always in the back of my mind is economies of scale, and then also economy of motion. And I remember doing like some research, reading that you can brew 5 gallons at the same time you can brew like 500. I don't know how many barrels.
500 barrels.
Yeah, same
500 barrels
exact amount of
is still
time
like
taken.
an 8-hour brew day, right?
Right,
So
right.
your economies of scale are definitely into play. And the thing that keyed on, I'm going to do a shout out to Tom Hennessy here up at Colorado Boy Brewing Company. We did the Brewers Immersions course up there, and he just strongly recommends do not start with anything less than 7 barrels. I mean, it's better to double batch on a 7 barrel and fill up a 15 barrel fermenter than it is like a 3 barrel filling up like a 15 barrel.
Right. They're doing
Brew
5
5
batches.
Brew
batches.
day's a lot shorter. The drain on resources ain't that much, and you still get. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to look at those. All right.
We're gonna
Those are
move
for you
Jason.
guys. So definitely that was always in the back of my mind. Like,
Yeah.
what's the most juice we can get out of the squeeze?
Right.
Well,
And how many fermenters do you guys have here?
3.
3. Okay.
Well, I was just gonna say that even on the homebrew side, I love to do double batch days. I mean, it's one less cleaning, which is a couple hours of work right there. I don't have to do the thorough clean through and everything else, and it just that is maybe the homebrew equivalent to brewing these 5 batches on a 3 barrel system as to 2 batches on a 7 barrel system. So
Totally part of it too. Yeah, when I used to homebrew too, it would be 3 or 4 batches in a day, and you spend 8 or 10 hours instead of your 6-hour day. But you start a pipeline, so you're heating water while you're mashing in. Well, you just kind of keep it going.
boiling and
then I'd
mashing
have
in.
release parties. You have like
You have
all
that
your
much
friends
more beer,
come over,
too.
have 4 kegs on tap.
Right.
It was super fun, and you get to dedicate one day to brewing instead of like your whole week. So it was great.
Yeah. Right. I don't know if most people understand out there, because people come into a brewery, they just see a bunch of equipment, and I don't know if they really understand. But you can your 7 barrel, that's how much beer you can make at a time. If you're gonna do a double batch, so you can only make as much as your fermenters can hold, right? And then you're trying to get your beer out of your fermenter, and then try to sell that. And so is it you want to have the most fermenters you can? Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, you're only the only thing that's going to hold you back is your fermenter size, the speed in which you want to push your beer out, which once again is a finicky thing. You don't want to push it too quick, and you don't want to take too much time because you're not making enough money. And then also water. So it depends on what the water system here, for example, is going to hold us back until we upgrade our RO. So we could probably only do a brew a day, every day if we wanted. Can't
Is
do
that the
doubles
amount
yet.
of water coming through the system?
Because we've got a very small RO unit. We're kind of a smaller brewery, so we'd have to wait for the water to fill. So that's one of our.
Interesting.
You just look at your bottlenecks in a system, you'll understand like how
Mhm.
quickly you can do it. So if we were to upgrade that, or maybe have a holding tank where we could fill it overnight, that would enable us to do 2 in a day, things
Mhm.
like that. So
Yeah, I'm sure Ollie can figure out something because he seems to be very, very handy. And our esteemed producer here, Jason, wants to know how much of your your Navy, obviously your background is in the Navy. How much of that helped in your planning, your research, your recon was spot on. And as far as like planning and designing the place, the systems, I know you showed us a couple of things that you guys came up with in there. So how much of that came from that Navy background?
I think I capitalized on that a lot because I come from a construction background and had a lot of friends in the construction background, so that really helped out a lot. Did I answer your question?
That's
You got it?
perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a
Well, I was
big fat
wondering
yes.
I was wondering because we didn't really talk about your Navy background as a deep sea welder. Is that right? Or-
Underwater construction diver.
Underwater construction.
UCTs, the underwater construction teams. There's 2 teams. There's one on the west and one on the east. There's UCT 1 on the east coast and UCT 2 out here in the pack, the Pacific. You know, that's how we like to call it, the pack. So there's only about 150 of us in the Navy if we're fully manning our ranks, and we just in short we do anything. We do underwater concrete, underwater blasting, underwater demo, underwater cable systems, repair, replace, all the fleet mooring systems out in the Navy, all those ships they need to have a place to hook up to when they're taking on cargo and whatnot. So we maintain those. Man,
That's how real the show is.
you're buying the next
We
you're
keep
buying
it
the
real,
next
don't
beer. So yeah, underwater
That's all right.
and also all the oceanfront facilities maintenance and repair for pretty much the whole Pacific fleet AOR.
So you guys are definitely in demand. I mean, there's 150 of you.
150, but just 75 right here at the team. So yeah, we're always on the go. Oscar Mike.
Well,
on
and
the
then-
move.
and that kind of leads back to what we were talking about too, just the planning and I mean, reading blueprints, following blueprints, planning out and executing these kinds of things. You're no stranger to any of that.
No, it's all about the planning, estimating. I like to say that amateurs think tactics, professional think logistics. So you got to work out the logistics of something. You can train all you want to, but until you have a way to get there and way to function and get all the means and resources and stuff that you need to actually do the mission, then you're kind of dead in the water. So I think that's always been in the back of my head that.
He's flashing. He's
I just want to know what's coming up next. I'm like, that's the Navy side of me. What's coming around the corner?
He doesn't like you standing behind him.
Yeah.
Kidding.
And then back to the construction background. Before we go to dive school, we're actually Seabees. We're Seabees at heart. So construction battalions is our background. So that came into play big time when it come to like from day one, like cutting the concrete and trenching out and like putting the piping in and all that from the ground up. I had a lot of friends that really helped out with that. So
Oh, that's good.
Well, so during the segment, we've been drinking the amber. Reno, give us some specs on this beer right here.
Yeah, actually, interesting one to talk about. This is the first one we brewed on the system. So when we brewed this on brew day, I was looking at Brian. I'm like, Brian, we're missing like 3 or 4 parts we need to actually complete this brew. Should we go ahead and do it anyway? He was like, screw it, brew it. So I was really impressed with that. So I came in and we kind of pieced some stuff together, and we were able to brew this one. So this is our amber. It's once again Brian and Vinita's recipe, and half of the base malt is actually Ashburn mild because it's nice, like toasty.
Mm-hmm.
It's a kind of different play on an amber. It's very English in style.
It is.
It's got the great caramel notes, and it's right on there. And it's not a hoppy. I think we were talking last night about that. Amber and red is sort of that category where everyone just hops them to IPA status, and you don't know what is
American,
that? What is an
red or the
American red
red,
anymore?
right.
What is that?
Yes.
So it's kind of nice to have something that's like more back to the
roots.
basic, I guess. Yeah, to roots.
It's
think
great beer too because we designed this beer, or we picked this beer. Brian and Vinita and I did because it's a great beer for people who don't necessarily like hops, and there are those beer drinkers out there that don't. So it's really
Who are
important
these
to
people?
have one of those. I don't know who they are either, but you know who you are. But
Terrorist.
yeah, exactly. But if you're out there, that's
Terrorists
why
don't
we
like
brewed
beer.
this
Never
beer for
mind.
you. And it's great
Cut-
too. I know a
cut
lot
that
of
out.
winemakers I've met come in for beer, and they've always talked about the lower hop beers. 'Cause
Right.
Sure.
That's
They
what
don't want to blow their palates out,
Right.
and I totally respect that. So this beer was why we designed that.
Well, even though there's a lower amount of hops in this, and we're talking like there's no hops in
Yeah,
it at all.
there
I
are
mean,
hops
obviously
in
there
it.
are hops in this, but it's such a clean and crisp beer on top of it. So, it has this interesting play of it being this. There's this toasty, really, I don't know, base layer. You've got this caramel sweetness, but then it dries out. So
Right.
I mean, it's not a cloying beer. It's another. I'm using the term again, well attenuated. It has this dry finish that when I get done with a drink, I want
some more.
I just want to take another whole big old gulp of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Yeah, it's once again, it's designed that way. I think it's around, I want to say 12 or 15 IBU, so very, very low.
Oh yeah.
It's all East Kent Goldings hops, so you got that English
Mhm.
influence once again.
I think the other the other thing that we did was
That was-
I think that we made the decision to use an English ale yeast instead of the standard like American ale yeast,
Mhm.
and our regular beers, and it was something that when we went to Colorado, and took the class, we asked a ton of questions. I mean, that was what it was all about. It was like a brewery immersion course, and it was sort of our final, are we doing this or are we not? And we just signed a lease and we went to Colorado and came back and we're like,
We're
okay, we
doing
can do
this.
this. And it was fun because, you had somebody that had been in the industry for a really, really long time, as well as the person that brews with him. And then you had somebody that had been through his class a couple of years beforehand and had opened a brewery and was just in the process of opening a second location in Colorado. And so we got a chance to try a lot of beers that were made in a different state, and a lot of people there use the English ale yeast, and we just came back and kind of felt like that's sort of the way we really wanted to go. It was a little bit different from what most of the other local breweries are using, but we really liked how clean it was and how it cleared out really nicely and all that stuff. So
I wonder if either one of you two can kind of make a comment on this whole English yeast thing. I'm surprised by that. I think of English yeast strains as not nearly as attenuating, so a little sweeter beers, more fruity esters kinds of. And so I'm really surprised by this. I was figuring this was an American ale. This was whatever the Cali 05s or whatever it is.
Yeah, like the Chico yeast or
Right.
something.
Mhm.
A lot of California breweries use those yeasts because once again they're workhorses. I mean, they will ferment things down from 15% if you want. The problem is that they don't flock very well. They don't flocculate very well. So
Uh-huh.
you're going to end up with a really, really cloudy beer. They're going to dry it out like you want it to. The trick with English yeast is fermentation temperature. So once you've brewed it, it's all cold side work. So if you know how to work the fermenters just right, you can get it to actually attenuate more.
Oh, nice.
And that's the trick. And also making sure that you get good enzymatic action in your mash and you get a good boil so that the sugars are simple enough that the yeast doesn't have to work too hard. So if you can do that, you can actually get it down to between 4 to 2 to 1.5 Plato even, just like a Cal yeast. And the trick, of course, with fermentation temperature, if you can control it correctly, you won't get those fruity esters that you're used to tasting.
So I got to give you credit for getting all that right on your first brew on the system.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Not only the first
Nailed
brew,
it.
but it was minus a few parts too.
That was fun.
That's funny
pretty
you
good.
brought that up because
dude.
I asked, just meeting Reno, right? And I was like, hey, Reno, do you think we need to do a couple test homebrew batches, or what's your He's like, I'm pretty confident I could just scale it up and just freaking go with it. I'm like, all right, let's go. 8-0 and go, baby. Just freaking
At a
bottle
certain
up.
point, you're done.
You freaking nailed it.
You're done. Wasting
done
it's
test
not
batching,
wasting
right?
your time.
No
but
more
you're
batching.
done with 5-gallon batches.
Yeah,
You
no
know,
more
you're like,
tests.
I can brew. What are we brewing? Like 232 gallons at a time. And in this case, we're doing 7.5. So it's about 232 gallons.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's no reason to waste the 3 of our time brewing a 5-gallon batch when we can see it on paper, we can visualize it, and just go for it. And I think that's what we're actually going to be doing this whole time. We're going to sit down, look at the recipes together, talk about it. Should we do this? Kind of vote in on it, and then go for it. So
one of the producer notes was, wasn't it about how do you pick beer styles?
Oh yeah, how'd you
and-
pick your core beers?
and core beers and stuff. And I think we all really like variety and kind of trying new things and, you know, that sort of stuff. So, I mean, unless there's like a total crowd favorite where everybody comes back and they're like, you guys don't have that, you know, and you sort of realize that there's something that like you always have to have on tap. We all like variety. And so we're all kind of excited about just changing things up as one runs out, you know, thinking of down the line of like what new, you know, variations you can do and what new, you know. So, I mean, at least till like there ends up being that one beer that, you know, is the crowd favorite core beer, you know, we're just going to keep it new and different, I think, rather than committing to like 4 house styles or 5 house styles and, you know, going from there. Because, I mean, we've just sat down and just brainstorming and come up with like 20 other beers with 20 other different things we want to, you know, like try out. Like, I know my favorite one coming up is like a porter that we're going to do at least to try, like, as a cask with like maple bacon with some oak chips and or something like that. The whole like, but thinking about the season and the fall, I know.
With a deep fried Twinkie wrapped in bacon and dipped in chocolate.
That's gonna be 2015.
2015 fair. We're coming. Stand by.
Gotta wear Daisy Dukes next time too.
Daisy Dukes and cut off T-shirts, Bubba.
Then we will all be going
Straw hats.
down to West Coast strength and conditioning, and you know, PTing our butts off.
We got 1 year. We got 1 year to do it.
We're wearing
snakeskin boots.
Well, you know, you have your own market research group here. That's what's great. I mean, the tasting room is your own market group. It's great. So people will. You're right. They're gonna tell you, or they're gonna vote with their money, and so you're gonna see what's gonna sell. So that's exciting. So you don't have to commit to a core thing right now. You don't have to do any of that. I think that's what's great. A lot of people do. They feel like they may need to have this. Like, okay, I have to have my pale ale. I have to have my IPA. I have to have a whatever when we go out. But you guys are going to be able to do whatever you want and keep changing it up. And then if something sticks, you'll be like, hey, I'm going to make that again.
And I think we've really been conscious of, as we've like thought about like our upcoming beers, is to make sure we have like some sort of a Belgian on tap, some sort of a less hoppy beer on tap. Like there's usually 2 IPAs of some, whether it's a session, a double, a regular, a fruity. Like there's definitely a couple IPAs on tap just because of, you know, where we are and that we all like them as well. And, you know, but like we like stouts. I mean, I love stouts, you know, so there's always going to be something fun.
There's always going to be a stout.
There's probably always going to be some sort of a stout, but
Nice.
it can be an American stout. It can be a chocolate imperial oatmeal stout. It can be, you know what I mean? There's just a whole range of, you know, and that's kind of the fun thing. Like it lets you, you know, commit to like a new thing. And, you know, we love the seasons. And I think like we're really excited about all the different stuff, like living here and working here that, you know, like nobody else could get anywhere because it is local. You can go to the farmer's market and pick something, or you can go to Spicetopia and like sniff canisters for half an hour and be like, woohoo, this is our next beer, you know, and what's going to work, like what would this pair well with as far as a beer style. So I think that's kind of really where we're at for now, you know.
That's awesome. I think that's a great
I think
philosophy.
alcohol is always involved whenever we make our decisions, which is important. It's usually the 3 of us at the end of the day. We've had a couple beers already, and we're like, I got this great idea. We write it down, and in the morning, it's like, if it still sticks.
If it still sounds good tomorrow, let's do it.
It always,
I like that.
yeah, it comes
Just so there's no midnight brew sessions. Yeah, this is so good.
do
We
it
gotta
right
do
now.
it right now, man. Let's do
Yeah,
it.
you got a couple of weeks to order
Yeah,
that
they haven't
grain
said
stuff.
there hasn't been a midnight brew
No,
session.
that's true. They haven't. I think.
Look
that- Wait a second.
We have it really funny. So one day, the guys from Enegrin, Matt, was here, at like 9 o'clock in the morning, and he's like, is anyone there? And none of us were here. We're sort of like, we're all kind of a little bit more like late night kind of people, so like you're realistically probably not going to find somebody here, especially once we're open.
That's because he didn't know what happened the night
least
before.
10. Well, true, but this is a little late night kind of thing. I mean, but I think it was just funny. Like, I mean, our day is a 10 to 6 day, especially for Reno, maybe 10 to 7. Like, if we're
So
sitting
you're
around
not here
drinking
at
beer.
5 in the morning. Rena.
No.
And actually, that's a great point
never.
because looking at your setup, you don't actually have to be here. You know, a lot of people have to kind of be there before the public is there, or you know, we talked to Jason at Anacapa, and he has to get out of there by 10, I think, in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So he's
rough.
there like at 5 or 4. Or
It
something.
was a great design by these two, where they decided we'll just have lots of glass. People can see everything going on, but the brewery will be separated, so you can talk in here, have music in here, and you won't be bothered by the brewer in the back. So
and
at
you
the
don't
same
have to be
time,
here in
we
at
can open the
midnight.
door. Let's say it's quiet. Someone wants to come and check it out. We can let them walk back there while we're brewing and give them the proper safety equipment, of course.
Yes. Absolutely.
So you know how it is.
Well, I think this is a great place for a break. We need to refill. We can come back after the break. We can talk about the future here. We've hit all of the past and the present, it seems like. We can get through, find out if this is if this is a subconscious sort of retirement plan here, or if it's, or if it's more of a cognizant sort of decision to open a brewery after you've been an underwater construction. Who does underwater? I mean,
This
that
gentleman
guy.
right here.
And he
75 people.
and he probably
on the
wears
West
one of
Coast.
those giant hats right there too. Those big old.
I don't think they still
helmets.
actually wear those hats.
with the air pump
We
handle.
can talk
going,
about the dive helmet when we come.
So we'll come back. We'll take a
All
quick
right,
break. We'll
perfect.
come back. This is Happy Hour with Joby and Curtis. We'll catch you in a minute.
Hey, thanks for listening to Happy Hour with Joby and Curtis. If you like this podcast, make sure you like us on iTunes. You can also find us on Facebook under Happy Hour with Joby and Curtis. Give us a like and share it with all your friends. We'd appreciate it. Cheers!